Alright, we're back. It's me, your girl, Melipona, your favorite dating sim YouTuber, here to continue with part 5 of Tears of Themis. If you just saw the last part of the series, we finished the preliminary investigation of Grandpa Vern's restaurant, trying to figure out a little bit more about what is going on with this insecticide poisoning incident. So we were able to research with Luke, and now we're moving forward to the next part of the story. So we're just going to start at episode 1-9. Winnie takes the blood pressure monitor off of Vernon's arm and puts it away. Winnie, there's no need to worry about me. My customers got food poisoning after eating at my restaurant. Hiring a detective won't change this fact. Did you like my pathetic old man cough there? I really felt into the role. Come, tell me about school. When does the next semester start? While reviewing the measurement history on the blood pressure monitor, Winnie's hand stops. She turns towards Vernon, eyes slightly teary. Grandpa Vern, are you trying to hide something? Hide something? Winnie, I don't understand what you mean. Your heart rate and blood pressure just now was better than the past few days. Were you pretending to be ill downstairs so you could avoid answering their questions? Yeah, that was suspicious to me. Winnie, What are you hiding? This incident could very well drive the restaurant out of business. Vernon is stunned for a moment, but then lets out a long sigh. I don't have a choice. It's a long story. Mysterious. I guess he's telling her the story right now? Luke's preliminary test results show that something isn't adding up with the fingerprints and insecticide powder. Maybe Luke and Artem were right in suspecting that there's more to this food poisoning incident. Each piece of evidence by itself seems innocuous. However, putting them all together tells another story. True, for instance, the insecticide that contaminated the spring water probably wasn't the bug out that Mr. Green bought. Bug out is an insecticide that isn't toxic to humans. Let me guess, the crystals on the water dispenser are a match with insecticide 330. Sure is, I cross-checked online and the toxic chemicals detected in the crystals match those in insecticide 330. I also took the dispenser apart and found a lot of chemical residue in the filter. This explains why there are crystals present. The chemical concentration is alarmingly high. That means any water that went through the dispenser would get contaminated. This also means that it's nearly impossible to spill insecticide into the dispenser by accident, so the act was intentional. In that case, were the customers hospitalized because they consumed contaminated spring water? Let me think. Reviewing all the evidence we have should give us our answer. Start analysis. Are the customers' poisoning symptoms consistent with the poisoning symptoms of insecticide 330? So that's contaminated spring water and customers' medical reports. Find connections. Connection found. We can. According to their medical reports, the patients had abdominal pain and diarrhea, which is consistent with the symptoms of insecticide 330 poisoning. Then we can be sure that this isn't a simple food poisoning case. Exactly. Insecticide 330 is a potent pesticide. If it were deliberately used in a restaurant, there's no way this case of food poisoning was caused by negligence. A hazardous chemical was intentionally used. It's a criminal act. Mr. Green didn't ask his employees to buy insecticide 330, so who bought it and put it into the water? If the culprit was in the restaurant, they must have left fingerprints or some other traces. Can we identify the perpetrator based on the fingerprints found in the restaurant? And then it's just my other 2 clues here. Find connections. Connection found. I lifted some fingerprints from both the dispenser's surface and its internal filter. 4 of them match info from the smart lock's database. The earliest is from 10 years ago. It's likely whoever installed the lock, so Mr. Green himself. There are 2 other fingerprints that were registered 3 years and 1 year ago. According to what Winnie told us about the restaurant's staff, these 2 likely belong to them. A 4th fingerprint was registered 6 years ago, but I have no clue who it belongs to. Maybe a former employee? We can rule out that possibility. There are records of entry deletion, so I'm assuming fingerprints of former employees were removed. But on a certain piece of evidence, I found a fingerprint that matches the 4th fingerprint in the smart lock's database. Care to hazard a guess? End analysis. The receipt for insecticide 330. That's right, this fingerprint also appears near the water dispenser's filter. So we've got a fingerprint that was entered into the smart lock, a fingerprint on the water dispenser, and a finger on the receipt for insecticide 330. Now we know for sure that someone not employed by the restaurant was recently here. They must be the one who placed insecticide into the water dispenser. Since they could unlock the front door, they must be close to Mr. Green. So it's not an employee, but it's someone who's close to Mr. Green. Someone who's close to him but also has a conflict of interest with the restaurant. We'll have to ask Mr. Green for that answer. I don't think he'll talk with the evidence we currently have on hand. You mean Mr. Green is deliberately trying to shield the suspect? Didn't I call that earlier? I totally did. That's right. Why do you think that? Did you find some evidence? Usually, water tanks are cleaned by the supplier after they receive an empty tank. However, the tanks of spring water in the restaurant from the day of the incident have been wiped clean. Not a drop or a print to be found. Additionally, the powder found along the wine cabinet tested to be the non-toxic bug out, but it was also cleaned up. The restaurant likely uses bug out on a regular basis. Could the staff have cleaned it up by accident? In a restaurant where food poisoning occurred, the staff normally wouldn't dare do so without explicit orders. My guess is that Mr. Green cleaned up the evidence after learning the suspect's identity. If that's the case, then Mr. Green must have a long history with our culprit. Why would Vernon want to protect someone who is clearly out to damage the restaurant? You and Luke can't wrap your heads around it. You hear footsteps suddenly coming down from upstairs. It's Winnie. Her eyes are swollen and red from crying. When your eyes meet, Winnie stops in her tracks. She opens her mouth as if wanting to say something. Before she can speak, Vernon calls out from upstairs. Winnie, have you seen my medicine? Stay where you are, Grandpa Vern. I'll get it for you. Winnie glances at you again before going back upstairs. What's Mr. Green trying to hide? If he's unwilling to tell us the truth, then it's up to us to find it ourselves. We should start on the poisoner's identity. They've had access to the restaurant for 6 years, so we'll likely find clues to their identity somewhere here. Right. Also, the suspect has a conflict of interest with the restaurant, so maybe we can find something in the restaurant's operational records. Let's comb through the restaurant one more time. If we really can't find anything, we'll have to confront Mr. Green about it. Oh, speaking of a conflict of interest, I just thought of... You and Luke lock eyes, and he immediately knows what you're thinking, as if you two are of one mind. Oh, I would just kill for a connection like that with someone. To me, one of the most romantic things in the world is like locking eyes with someone and then knowing exactly what they're thinking is the same as what you're thinking. There's just that tension where at first when you lock eyes with them, you both realize this is a a big deal. And then it kind of evolves into this certainty. And that certainty feels like, to me, it feels like confidence and trust. And those two qualities are some of the most attractive to me as somebody who is largely attracted to people via emotional connection. You don't mean deli cart. I do mean deli cart. Alright, we're here continuing our journey at Penny's Comfort Food, doing part 2 of the investigation. So now we've used the preliminary information we gained during the first investigation to narrow down what we really need to be looking for, and that's the poisoner's identity. So as we're here doing our second investigation, we're looking for a slightly different set of clues, stuff that doesn't necessarily have to do with poison, but has to do with familiarity and a relationship to Grandpa Vern. You and Luke have determined that the suspect is someone closely related to Vernon and has a conflict of interest with the restaurant. You suddenly think of Pedro, the man that Winnie had argued with. Vernon had rejected his sales offers several times, which constitutes a conflict of interest. Could this case be related to another one I'm working on? Another case? I'm talking about Pedro, the sales manager for Delicart. Winnie told me about him back at the law firm. Winnie didn't tell you about him, or is there something more to this? Delicart received investment funds from Pax Capital and is planning to go public. Did you hear about that? Yeah, I did. I also heard that many smaller financial institutions are following suit. Yup, one of them hired me to perform credit and background checks on Delicart. During my investigation, I found that Delicart not only hired a bunch of paid posters to write fake reviews, but they're also suspected of making money through illegal means. What? Delicart's just a food review app. What's their goal? I don't know either, but this case might have given me a lead. There's a lot of competition in the review app market. Although Delicart remains afloat, its revenues are nowhere near high enough to go public. But if an accident occurred at one of their clients' restaurants, Delicart's premium PR services would then become useful. You're saying that Delicart intentionally sabotages its clients? Like review bombing a restaurant to force its owner to purchase Delicart's premium service to save their restaurant's reputation? This is just my hypothesis based on these two cases, and I don't have any hard evidence yet. I didn't think this is what private detectives do nowadays. What else? You think I'd be invading some celebrity's privacy? That's a paparazzi. Or digging into affairs? I guess a PI would do that. Give me a break. You said it, not me. I thought private detectives were all about solving cold cases. That's more like amateur hobbyist detectives? I don't know. It's not really about cold cases with PIs. Pedro happens to be a Delicart employee, so you might be right. Let's see if we can find some evidence here. Start investigation. It's a good day to have a good meal. Being in a restaurant, all I can think of is food. Alright, what's this? Is this photo of Mr. Green's family? While searching the bookshelf, you come across a picture frame hidden amongst the recipes. Mr. Green was quite handsome back in his prime, but now he seems a bit haggard. Yeah, he's sick. What? Does anybody else get the vibe that our MC is just a little bit like, what's it called? Tone deaf, like socially awkward? Doesn't quite get when she's saying something that could be rude. I don't know. I get that vibe. I hope this blows over so he can get back on his feet. This must be Mr. Green's wife, Penny. She was beautiful. It's gotta be her. I mean, they look extremely close with each other. Her smile's so gentle. She must have been a kind-hearted person. It's such a pity. Is this Mr. Green's son? When Winnie hired me, she told me about Mr. Green's current situation. She didn't mention that he had a son. She's only been in Stellis for a month. It's understandable that she doesn't know everything about his family. I feel like the boy in the photo seems familiar. Familiar? Could you have met him recently? I really can't remember. You remove the photo to see if there's a date on the back, but you find another photo wedged behind the photo frame. It's Pedro. That photo's dated March 2028. It was taken 2 years ago. Why would Pedro's photo be with Mr. Green's family photo? Maybe a grandson? Judging by Mr. Green's age, his son should be much older than Pedro. We'll have to ask Mr. Green about it then. Yeah, I'm getting grandson vibes. This is what makes sense to me. I mean, I don't know if that's possible because I don't know when his son actually died. Mr. Green's pretty amazing. He was the champion of last year's Stellis angling competition. He looks so cheerful in this picture, but now... This incident caused his restaurant to close down. Of course he'd be upset. You access the computer on the checkout counter to check the restaurant's account logs. The expenditures look normal. Most of the costs are towards ingredients and Delicart's monthly membership fee. Expenditures for supporting underprivileged students are also recorded. Delicart review bombed this place, but Mr. Green still pays their membership fee? He's been a member since March of last year. Huh? Luke, look, Pedro's name is here. You find Pedro's name among the list of underprivileged students that Vernon had supported. Vernon used to send him $300 every month. Pedro was one of the students that Mr. Green had helped? The records show that Vernon had supported Pedro for a long time. Payments stopped in June last year, around the time when Pedro would have graduated from college. Do you see Pedro's bank account number anywhere? Yes, the last 4 digits match the account number on the Insecticide 330 receipt. Bingo. In that case, Pedro's extremely suspicious. Transaction records obtained. I haven't seen a handwritten customer feedback book in a long time. Winnie said the restaurant got review bombed on Delicart once Mr. Green turned down Pedro's offer. The positive feedback in this book is proof that Delicart hires ghostwriters to write negative reviews. You can feel the sincerity behind each written comment. This place is truly loved. There is a leaflet tucked between the pages. It's a quote from Delicart on their premium services. There's a handwritten discount offer. Pedro's business card is also attached. Looks like Delicart tried to sell their premium services to Mr. Green. PR services price quote obtained. Luke notices a CCTV camera high in a corner near the entrance. It looks like the camera's damaged. I'll get it down so we can inspect it. The camera is high up near the ceiling. Luke stacks 2 chairs on top of each other before climbing up. However, they appear shaky and unsafe. Yeah, well, of course, it's 2 chairs on top of each other. I'll steady the chairs for you. Be careful. Don't worry, I'll be done in a flash. Luke's movements are nimble. He swiftly detaches the camera from its wall mount. Only once Luke's feet are back on the floor do you relax. Your neck is sore from looking up. It can't have taken more than like a minute or 2. How is your neck sore already? The lens is shattered. The camera's not in an easily accessible location, so how did this happen? Judging from the cracks, it was hit by a blunt force. It's possible that the culprit tried to break it after discovering it. The camera must have been hit by a hard object. The memory card slot's damaged, so I can't eject it. But after some simple repairs, we should be able to remove the memory card. The Wi-Fi receiver's broken too. There's no online capability. It wouldn't have helped us anyway. Surveillance footage is usually kept on the cloud for only 14 days. Any videos from the incident are probably gone now. Damaged security camera obtained. After going through the scene again, you now have a clearer picture of the person responsible for the food poisoning incident. Pedro Brooks. Now we're sure Delicar, or rather Pedro, tried to market premium services to Mr. Green. However, we can't implicate him with only a receipt. He could argue that he dropped it in the restaurant after the incident. What if the surveillance camera caught him in here before the incident occurred? It'd be hard for him to argue his way out of that. But the camera... Oh, I had a look. It can be easily fixed, and I have all the tools I need right here. That's amazing! Wouldn't expect anything less from my Sherlock. Tell me that, Sherlock Watson dynamic isn't so cute. Sit back and watch the magic happen. Luke pulls out all sorts of gadgets from his pockets. Before he can start, Vernon comes downstairs with Winnie's assistance. You can save your efforts. I broke the camera myself. Vernon was the one who did it? End investigation. Well, I really wasn't expecting that. Quite a twist. Quite a twist. Let's go ahead and play through this flower picking man. They're just flowers. You're making a big deal out of it. Flowers all wilt, so giving them to my girlfriend is more valuable. It's just a flower. You're being so stingy. Babe, use Camellia for your selfie. You'll get tons of likes. Selfie? Sounds like the new app for taking pictures. Selfie. Well, with that, it looks like we are on level 1-12. You know what I wish in this game? I wish you could tap on each individual level and see a brief overview and it just didn't take you right into the level. Because especially if you're replaying this or the first time you did it you didn't see everything that it said like me, I think it would be really helpful just to make sure you know where you are in the process. So, alright, well, looks like we're getting ever closer to finding out the truth of what happened at Penny's Comfort Foods. We have a strongly suspicious Pedro Brooks, the villain from the very first episode, who caused poor Winnie to faint. But we still don't really have enough information, like why is Grandpa Vern protecting him? Why would he break his own camera but not remove the memory card? Why is he trying to obstruct justice in this case? We still have a lot of questions, even though now we do have markedly more answers. So, as we make our way through the very first chapter, we're closer than ever to finally solving our very first mystery and whatever the trial holds for us. Alright, well, that is going to wrap up episode number 5. As always, it's me, Melipona, your favorite dating sim YouTuber. Make sure to subscribe, click that bell, all that wonderful noise that helps channels like mine grow. Hopefully I'll be able to see you guys soon and you enjoy this content so far. And as always, that's the end.